The Pac-12 Conference have recently announced plans to expand the conference to revitalize the now two-team conference into seven, bringing over 5 teams from the Mountain West, and in an effort to revitalize the conference and bring back college football and make it a powerhouse conference once again. In addition to that, they will be bringing over Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Utah State, and San Diego State to join in 2026. However, under the new landscape within college football, conferences need 8 teams in order for their winner to qualify for the playoff. And after most recent attempts of looking to sway Memphis, USF, UTSA, and Tulane, who have all pledged loyalty to stay in the AAC, that leaves the Pac-12 conference one member short in order for their league to qualify for the playoff. Well, today we're going to solve that solution by bringing over that last team to make it 8, and we're also going to be taking over that team, and that's going to be the New Mexico State Aggies. That's right, the New Mexico State Aggies, who are currently in the Conference USA conference. They're going to be coming over to the Pac-12 come 2026 to join those other state schools in order to make the Pac-12 conference now have 8 total members. Now, you might be wondering, why New Mexico State? Well, recent reports announced that New Mexico was also approached to come over with their Mountain West counterparts as part of the Pac-12 deal. However, they pledged loyalty to remain in the Mountain West, so why not look in-state into their in-state rivals with the Aggies? Now, the Aggies have had some success over the last few years. However, 2024 was not kind to them. They only had 2 wins versus FCS opponents, boasting a 3-9 record and finishing 8th in Conference USA. Also, to start this dynasty, we will not be taking over the team until 2026. So things like recruiting will be done manually automatically by the CPU, and that's probably going to be one of the biggest challenges to start this dynasty is recruiting. As we can see here, within 2024, the CPU was only able to bring in 1- and 2-star players, making this very, very tough to start the season out. Going into 2025, we will be moving the UMass Minutemen into the MAC as scheduled in real life, leaving the remaining 2 independents being Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the UConn Huskies. Going into the 2025 season, the Aggies actually improved in record with 6-7. However, they did lose their bowl game against Syracuse. So wrapping up the 2025 season, we take a look at the stats. Santino Marucci, the junior from Jacksonville, threw for 3,200 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Now, he is a junior, so he will be back for next year. Likely is going to be QB1 going into next season. However, he does have normal depth, but he does have some relatively high skill cap, so hopefully we can get some good development this offseason and we can have a solid QB1 going into 2026. Now, the rushing stats, Mike Washington, the senior out of New York, he ran for only 632 yards and 5 touchdowns. He did have a 5.5 average, but the team was likely playing for behind in most of those games, so they probably had the advantage of the run pretty often. McGowan finished with 260 yards and 1 touchdown. Receiving, Donovan Fapel, he finished over 1,000 yards with 1,002 yards, along with 5 touchdowns. However, Jaden Bell, the sophomore, finished with 946 yards and 13 touchdowns. P.J. Johnson, senior, he finished with 643 yards and only 4 touchdowns. And tight end Hunter Talley finished with 262 yards and 2 touchdowns. No other receiving threats really stood out for this for the 2025 season. So hopefully next year that could be something that we can try to build upon with a number of the key skill players actually coming back. Now, the blocking, 11 sacks given up by Canepa and Pete. That's not something that you really want to see. However, Kai Wheeler stood out. He had 888 downs played and only gave up 3 sacks on the year. So shout out to him. Shaheen, he gave up 5 sacks. Defense, Rontarius Perry, the senior from Georgia, he led the team with 75 tackles. He only had 1 TFL. Jacoby Campbell, the corner, he had 70 tackles as a corner. Don't want to probably see that many high tackles for a corner. And then Sone Ayupi, he finished with 68 tackles. Tyler Martinez, he led the team with only 3 TFLs all season, which is kind of a letdown. Beatles and Tayo, they both added 2 sacks. Noah Arenzi, he finished with 6.5. Pierce Humpich, he finished with 5.5, and Tyler Martinez finished with 4, and Beatles finished with 3. Interceptions, the junior corner Rashad McKinney, he had 3 picks, while Ayupi, the linebacker, finished with 2. Perry, Campbell, Josiah Cox, Mitchell, and Barnes all finished with 1 interception. So the team did not force a lot of interceptions, unfortunately. And we take a look at some of the fumbles. We only had, looks like, 5 fumble recoveries on the year. So the team did not have a lot of had 6 fumble recoveries on the years, but the team didn't force a lot of turnovers. Alright, so going into our coach creation, we are going to use this random name generator to generate our coach's name as well as our primary pipeline for our background. So we did generate, our name's going to be Kevin McDonald going into this dynasty, and our background is going to be from Buffalo, New York, so that's going to be our number 1 pipeline. We're also going to randomize our alma mater just to take a look at what's going to be our secondary pipeline, which looks to be Air Force. So now we're just going to get into the coach creation mode, and we're just going to actually just set up the coach. So we officially signed a 3-year contract with the Aggies, and starting off, we take a look at the players leaving going into the 2025 season. We are going to lose 5 players: Deanne Burns, center Sohn, left tackle Dorsett, and a wide receiver. And for the CPU, once again, they did recruiting for us for the 2025 in season, as we don't take over until the off season. And majority of the players they signed were 1 and 2 stars, but there were a number of notable players that stood out. Cornerback Travis McKenzie from Encinitas, he will come in having impact dev. Now he is zone tendency. We don't know what his attributes are going to look like until obviously gets on campus. We had a DN David Virgin, another 2-star player from Texas. He also has impact development trait. He's 6'5", 247, so he's got some size to him. So McGrim, receiving running back from Texas as well. He also is going to come in with impact dev, 5'9", 174. So it's a little light as far as the running back size, but he does have the receiving back tendency, so he likely won't be an in between the tackles type of running back. Also has J.J. Bayer, right guard, JUCO transfer, who also has impact dev. He's also from Texas, so Texas seemed like one of the major pipelines going into the season. You also have Juan Hopes, also from Texas. He's got impact dev. He's a 6'4", 272. So both of the DNs that they signed that have impact dev does have some size to them, and hopefully they'll have some decent attributes to start. Eric Karlaftis, he's a 2-star impact player from Chandler, Arizona. He projects to be either a, looks like he's got this, the skills had to be likely a tight end. Deshaun Humphreys, receiving back from Gardner, Kansas. He's got star dev with 90 speed. That 90 speed likely won't be too much of a impact, but I think that might be someone we're probably going to give early and often touches to just due to that speed. So in summary, the New Mexico State Aggies will have the 115th ranked recruiting class going into 2026, recruiting 2 3-star players, 14 2-star, and 8 1-star. Now getting into the fun stuff. So the realignments. Once again, we're going to be joining the Pac-12 along with Boise State, Colorado State, Florida State, Oregon State, San Diego State, Utah State, and Washington State. Our 2026 schedule is going to open at home against Central Michigan. Then we're going to go to Hawaii, back-to-back rivalry games against UTEP and New Mexico, Rice, Colorado State to open Pac-12, San Diego State, Fresno State, Utah State, Washington State, and then we're going to end the season at home against Boise. Now, going into recruiting for 2026, our first recruiting that we're actually going to be in control on, we're going to have 17 seniors, 9 on offense and 8 on defense. Now, recruiting in this game is relatively easy to catch on, so we're going to actually implement a few house rules to kind of limit the improvement we can do within the recruiting system. So we are going to base our targets on our prestige rating. So currently we're a 1.5 star school, so we'll be able to target 1-star players in anywhere in the country. However, we can only target 2-star players if they're in our pipeline only. Now, once again, this will just help limit the amount of impact players we can bring in from the recruiting system, just because it is relatively easy and you can recruit some quality players as lower prestige teams. However, going into year 1, we are going to base our initial targets on the New Mexico State recruiting rankings over the last 4 or 5 seasons. This is really going to help put together a baseline as far as the target players we can go after. So 2024, they did bring in a 3-star tight end, so that will allow us to recruit or target or assign, at least 1 3-star player. 2023, they actually brought in 2 3-star players, so that bumps that 3-star players that we can sign up to 2. However, the prior years they were only able to bring in 1 3-star player in 2022 and then no 3-star players in 2021. So 2 3-star players are going to be our initial signing cap for the recruiting season. Now this will impact incoming freshmen. This will not impact any transfer targets. However, we are going to limit our transfer targets to players that are interested within our team if they are 3 or above. Now that's going to wrap our intro episode. We'll see you next episode. We'll reopen our dynasty against the Central Michigan Chippewas.